Today, we are going to be doing some cheap or even free organic container planting. Stay tuned. For today's project, we will be using some recycled materials for our planting containers, like a water bottle, a construction bucket, and even an old busted water tank. You can use other recycled materials that you have at hand, like old tires. They make excellent planting containers. I'm always on the lookout for items I can recycle and use for container planting. Old or busted water tanks make excellent containers. I simply cut them into 6-inch strips and use them as you see here. I start by laying out the container and then place some freshly cut dry grass on the bottom half of the container. I would spread the dried grass throughout the base of the container to a depth of about 3 inches or halfway up the container. I would then use my hands to semi-compress the dried grass so it will be a stable foundation for the next layer. You can collect dried grass from your lawn trimmings for use, as I'm doing here, or you can put them into a compost heap for the next layer. The dried grass is an excellent base for two main reasons. Firstly, it provides excellent drainage, which is very good for the plants that we will be putting in this container. And secondly, in a couple weeks, this will become nutritious compost that the plant's roots will be able to feed off. Compost that is made from grass is very high in nitrogen, and nitrogen is one of the main compounds needed for healthy green leaves. So green leafy vegetables will grow well, healthy, and beautiful in compost made from grass. After laying out and semi-compressing the grass, it's time for the next layer. The second layer is compost made from grass. This container will be filled with grass and compost made from grass. The nitrogen-rich compost will allow leafy vegetables to grow green, healthy, and large. While the young plants are feeding off the top layer of compost, the bottom layer of grass becomes compost to feed the roots as they grow deeper down. Using this double layer method that I have created, the bottom layer of grass takes only about 2 weeks to become compost, as the bacteria from the compost above it seeps down into the grass and breaks it down much faster. Since most of the crops we will plant in these containers will take between 1 to 3 months to mature, the compost retains much of its nutrients. so we can recycle the compost in the next batch of crops. This is done by removing the compost after the crops has been harvested. Without any roots and weeds that we might find, place a fresh patch of dry grass at the bottom of the container and then replace this very compost as the top layer, and the cycle continues. The compost is placed approximately 3 inches thick. The weight of the compost compresses the dry grass underneath down, so the container is not entirely filled. This aids as a windbreaker for the young plants that we will be putting in this container. After the layer of compost is placed, a generous watering is applied before the plants are laid down. This will help moisten the compost. It also helps the bacteria from the compost to enter the dry grass, which starts the decomposition process. The compost becomes heavier and further compresses the grass at the base. It is now time to transplant our cabbage seedlings into this container we have prepared for it. I will start by making adequate holes to place the seedlings into. The holes are made approximately 2 inches deep. This is deep enough to get the roots into the compost and to cover the base of the plant, but not the leaves. My aim is to plant approximately 8 to 10 cabbages in this container. I will have to get the best arrangement that I can find. Gently transplant your plants, making sure there is as little disturbance to the roots as possible. I started off with a layout of 8, but later on, as you will see, I revised it and was able to get 10 cabbages equally spaced. This double layer compost method I've created works well for leafy vegetables like pak choy, lettuce, and cabbages. It also works well for my seasoning. I would put mint, celeries, and siph in containers using this method as well. If you don't have access to large containers like I do, you can use this method with smaller containers like buckets or tires, as I will demonstrate shortly. I always recommend transplanting your seedlings late in the afternoon. The roots start taking hold of its new surrounding overnight, giving the plant a better chance of survival the following day, especially during the hot, dry season. I also recommend watering your seedlings after transplant. This helps the root penetrate the new soil it has been introduced to. For transplanting into smaller containers, like buckets, the procedure is similar, but you must ensure that your container has adequate drainage holes. If the water is to retain in the compost, the roots will not breathe properly and the plants may turn yellow and die. The bottom half of the container is filled with dry grass. This allows for drainage and will itself become compost later on in the process. Slightly compress the dry grass to remove as much of the air as you can. The compost will be placed in the layer above the dried grass, approximately 3 to 4 inches thick. This will accommodate the roots of the seedling. It will also introduce the bacteria to start the decomposition process of the dried grass underneath. Water generously and check to see if the drain holes are working properly. We can now prepare to transplant the seedling. Once again, water the seedling. Four days later. The pak choy and lettuce has almost filled their containers. This is the final layout I decided on for the cabbages. They have been transplanted 4 days now. All of the plants you see here has been planted using the double compost layer method that I created. This is a cherry tomato plant. It has been planted upside down in this recycled water bottle. It is a perfect example of crop integration in a container system. The cherry tomato grows out the bottom of the container that is hanging. At the top of the container, a chive plant grows, very healthy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to support my channel.